This is another Black Girl podcast. Black girl. We're doing our best to make it last. This is another Black Girl podcast. We're doing our best to make it last. Another Black Girl podcast. Hey everybody, this is your host and local tea spiller, shade thrower, and whatever else. My name is Laura. It's actually Lauren, but at this point, who cares? Today is Saturday, November 28th. It is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's 2 days after Thanksgiving, and even though we had a COVID edition Thanksgiving, I hope that you ate some good food and enjoyed and at least said hey to some of your loved ones. This year I felt like more people were cognizant of the fact that we are in fact on stolen land and that we need to hype up, donate, support our indigenous peoples who have been massacred and trafficked and all of the terrible things above by this country and by the colonizers of this country. And this Macy's Day Parade, maybe this is a contributing factor, but this Macy's Day Parade this year had some COVID protocols, which limited the amount of people that recorded and basically X'd out the entire audience that would have attended in person. They began with a land acknowledgement, which is a bit surprising for me. I didn't watch it, but I was like scrolling through the news on Thanksgiving and I saw an article on CNN titled Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade just featured a native land acknowledgement. And to my knowledge, LOL, the article says, and I quote, the 2020 parade featured a land acknowledgement, traditional rattle song, and a blessing honoring people of Native American tribes historically based in the Northeast, because the Macy's Day Parade does take place in New York, which is Northeast America. Ciao, whatever. You know what I'm saying. It's on the northeastern part of the map. And all of this is nice and good. All of this is good and great. But yes, we need to preserve the art of different cultures, especially those who have been suppressed and oppressed and massacred and have had their culture stolen. But more importantly, the same way I believe that Black people need to be paid some reparations, I believe that our indigenous people need to be paid reparations too. At the end of the day, it is their land. So, if you're curious, you can Google. You can Google. I Googled the Long Island Indian tribes map. Clearly, they're not Indian. They're Native American and indigenous. The only reason why we call indigenous people who live in America Indians is because Christopher Columbus made a mistake and was an idiot. So, they're not Indian. They're indigenous. But, okay, they're Native American. Go off. So, I Googled it and found a map for Long Island. I found a map for New York State, and it's really not that hard. And I'm pretty sure that somebody's racist uncle is going to be surprised that all of these different types of indigenous peoples lived here before his mind could fathom. Let me stop being shady. So if you're curious, you can always Google it, look on the map, and find out what stolen land you are on. And no, I'm not being dramatic because quite literally that's what it is. We are on stolen land. Period. And to know me, you know that this segment was not going to close and find its conclusion without me mentioning a few organizations that you can donate to stand in solidarity and to support and to give back the indigenous people that deserve their nation back. Period. All right, so here we go. The Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund. COVID's numbers are back on the rise. We know this, but Indigenous communities have been ravaged by COVID-19, and they need a lot of medical attention and support. I will be linking all of these things in I said the bio last week. It's the description. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's one. Another one. Native Wellness. It's an organization that exists to promote the well-being of Native people through programs and trainings that embrace the teachings and traditions of their ancestors. You can find that at www. Why did I say W like George Bush? Ew, so sorry. nativewellness.com. All right, next one. The next one is the Redhawk Native American Arts Council. It's an organization that expresses Native American heritage through song, dance, theater, works of art, and other cultural forms of expression. You can donate to the Redhawk Native American Arts Council. Since I'm an artist and since I care about art, So, I think I have about 5 more to go. Native American Rights Fund. It's like a civil rights group. Clearly, they need one. So, that one's important. I might do that one. The American Indian College Fund, First Nations Development Institute, Native American Heritage Association, Association on American Indian Affairs, and lastly, Native American Journalists Association. That's a good one too. There's so many good ones to choose from. A large issue for me in terms of my family and my lineage and who and where I come from is that it is usually passed down by oral tradition. In my family, people died before they can write it down. Journalism is important, and just documenting the lineage and the cultures is important, especially in this time where lives are being lost at a much more rapid rate. So, if you have it, please donate to at least one of these organizations. If you don't have it, do something to boost awareness. Make a post about it. Do something. So, random question. In school, like when you were learning about the early Americas, were y'all told the same kind of American anecdote about like the good indigenous person named Squanto who like gave the American settlers corn? I don't remember much from that lesson. It probably wasn't even an entire lesson. It was probably like a fourth of a lesson knowing American history and curriculum. They're like, oh yeah, fast forward to the important parts. You know how it goes. But I don't know. I didn't know at a young age why it made me feel like creepy. It gave me the heebie-jeebies. Because I'm like, y'all are going to credit this one man, first of all. And possibly this did happen. But some about it just didn't feel right. And I can't remember what grade I was in when I learned about Squanto giving corn to outsiders. But it made me feel weird. At the time that I learned about Squanto giving people corn, I don't think there was anything said about the massacres, rape, and oppression of indigenous people. But American history and curriculum is like, well, we got corn, that's it, bye. No, it was so much more than that. And in educating our future generations, we need to hold ourselves accountable in the ways in which we as a nation have messed up. Besides that, I remember I was in AP Gov. Yeah, it was AP Gov. And the only time I really heard about any kind of massive genocide in terms of indigenous peoples was in a lesson about Andrew Jackson, who was president. Really sucked. And under his administration, the Trail of Tears happened. And it wasn't even like its own section. I remember it just being like What is the Trail of Tears? It was this. Under whose administration? Andrew Jackson's. Was it good or bad? Bad. Okay, so let's move on to talk about what else happened in Andrew Jackson's administration. Like, what? Are we just gonna gloss over that? Are we really gonna gloss over that? Don't like it. So, as I began to grow up and get a little more woke and cynical, I now come to realize that that was really inappropriate and a gross mismanagement of actual American history. Again, American history, and whoever writes the textbooks, y'all got to do a better job of holding yourselves accountable and holding the nation accountable. I saw a post on TikTok that was basically saying that Thanksgiving is celebrating the genocide of indigenous people. And I mean, Thanksgiving exists because the indigenous peoples and the colonizers, yes, the colonizers, could put their differences aside and thank God for a great meal. Child, I am a Christian, and I say that cynically because indigenous peoples don't have the same faith as the Mayflower colonizers, right? So that's us from jump. And the man named Tisquantum was, if you allow the internet to tell it, a translator that helped and was paramount in what is now Massachusetts peace treaty between colonizers and indigenous people. Child, they could have sat and gave thanks, but like, I hate to say it, but the demise was on the way. And I understand that we give thanks now because this is an American tradition. But since a lot of people were home this year, I think that they're more cognizant of the fact that this holiday, you can make the most out of it, but the implications that are there and the lies that we were told about this holiday are a load of crap. Hate to say it. Yikes. It sounded much worse coming out of my mouth than it did in my mind. But nevertheless, a load of crap. And yeah, some people enjoy it because they get off of work and they can see their families and eat a meal. But this year we were already home and we were already cooking inside. By this point, my whole family, we went to sleep. Like the next day and the day before that, I went to sleep. The day before Thanksgiving, I went to sleep at 8 p.m. and woke up at 8 a.m. Child, I'm still tired. But I feel like a whole new group of people have been encountering some form of American disillusionment just in time to be cynical and truly consider what Thanksgiving in this nation means. So I hope you gobbled up your turkey on Turkey Day, but take a minute to truly consider how this holiday would make you feel as an indigenous person. Be mindful. Think about it. Sit in it. Because for the first couple years of my life, I didn't. And it sucks, but sometimes we gotta look ourselves in the mirror and recognize all the ways we have been complicit. Not saying that you cutting and eating a turkey is being complicit, but in general. It's something to be mindful of. It's uncomfortable and you have to sit in it. One way or the other. And another reason that I'm a bit cynical about Thanksgiving is because it literally kicks off the holiday season, which is just a large tool that America uses to get people to buy things. Not America, but I live in America, so that's what we're about to talk about. I mean, Black Friday, I just want to know who was like, I'm full, but instead of going to bed, let's go to the mall at 4 a.m. Child, y'all ain't got nothing better to do. Go sit down, read a book. If you up at 4 a.m., go pray. Meditate. Don't do that. So, yeah, I know we're probably all doing our Christmas shopping, and that's another thing to be cognizant of. Where are you putting your dollars? Where are you putting your dollars? And in putting your dollars in a certain place, who are you aligning with? I'm starting up some production of a company, and there's this company called Uline, and I was a bit shocked to find out who they aligned with. I'm not about to say good or bad, but child, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you already know who and what this company aligns with, and Uline is very, very popular. But stuff like that, a quick Google search, sometimes these companies are good and know how to hide their stuff or make it seem like they're woke or whatever. But still, if you can avoid shopping on Amazon this weekend, maybe try to not go on Amazon as much. And if you don't know why, then maybe you should Google it. But in short, they do support ICE. And Jeff Bezos, like, come on. You don't want to support that bald-headed guy. Child, anyway, stay tuned for this next segment. Another Black Girl Podcast. So for the main segment of this episode, I just wanted to talk something through with y'all. Okay, first of all, let me put this in context. It is November. There are some things that people engage in because it's November. People give it some great titles like No Shave November, one that might be deemed a little inappropriate. But the one that I am speaking of, which is more prevalent on TikTok and Instagram, is No Nuance November, in which you drop your problematic opinions and don't give any context or explanation for it, and you just move on to the next one. So, I'm interested because, first of all, I'm shady, and I enjoy controversial opinions, especially ones that I don't have myself. You know, diversify the portfolio. And there is this specific one. There was a specific opinion. I forget who posted it. Hopefully I can find it by the end of the segment. But it was a Black woman, and she said that all activism is performative. Child, that video looped about 3 more times because I was really deep in thought. Of course, yes, some activism is more performative than others, but all activism? I was kind of conflicted. I didn't know how to feel about it, and then I continued to think about it. Activism has to be performative to get eyes on it. The goal of activism is to raise awareness. So it has to be performative to attract attention. For instance, when people go on hunger strikes while they are imprisoned to protest. So when you see said imprisoned person emaciated and looking like they're about to wither away, that concerns you. Now you want to know why they are literally starving themselves, because the cause they believe in must be so large, and they must believe in it so deeply that they are willing to not eat at all. The person that comes to mind is Miss Angela Davis in 1970. Davis went on this hunger strike in the 70s to protest the conditions of her detention. She was defined as a Marxist in the New York Times, and her name and the ideologies that she stands on have been a bit controversial, sometimes too controversial for the general sleeping public of America. But over here we stand. We have the same birthday. But not the point. With the civil rights movement and the peaceful protests and the sit-ins, the goal was to be so nonviolent in the face of violence that people couldn't help but protest and advocate for these people who clearly were not striking back. It was to the point where in the 60s, protesters would undergo training in which they would be assaulted or accosted, and they were trained not to respond. And at sit-ins and at these protests, people were dragged away, hosed, dogs were turned on them, and they didn't strike. The power in that was basically the fact that we as in Black people, already face a stereotype for being aggressive, accosting others, being big, hulking people with large muscles who might come and steal your daughters away or something crazy and completely stupid. But the fact that in media and in sometimes people's everyday lives, they saw Black people being targeted and not fighting back. If I was alive during that time as a white person, I would be like, what? What is that? Why are they not? Fight them. Like, come on. But that was definitely performative. Marches are performative. And even on the other side of that, if we wanted to talk about the Black Panther Party, they were performative in their dress, in their style, in their berets, in their afros, in the guns they used to carry, but they weren't all for that. They were about community, solidarity, and self-defense. But as soon as you arm some Black folks, the whole nation is in a national upset. But that's not the point. The point is that I think I agree that activism is performative, and it has to be. If it wasn't performative, no one would care. And a little about me, I have a performative background, and I think that that's why this topic interests me so. Because daily life can be performative if you make it. If someone was watching you and the way that you led your life and the things that you were doing, not like any creep stuff, but like if somebody was to actually watch the performance of life that you gave, what would you be advocating for? What changes would they strive to make after seeing you perform and lead a life for a cause? What causes do you believe in? And how can you activate that? How can you show others that you care? How can you call to arms your fellow comrades, brothers, sisters, and siblings? In what ways can you bring awareness and change? So again, I ask, if your life was a performance and someone was watching you, the way you lead your life, where you put your money, the type of clothes you wear, the way you speak to and treat people, not just people that you think are deserving of respect, but all people. People that are different from you. People that maybe don't look like you, don't speak like you, don't walk or talk like you. What conclusions would they come up with? What would they be able to deduce? And what are you advocating for in your personal and your public life? I understand that some people feel as if they shouldn't get political. But now, even more than ever before, this is the time to get political, because it's not just politics. These are people's lives. People are still in cages. Indigenous peoples are dying from COVID and other preventable diseases at alarming rate. Maybe it's time for you to win an Oscar and get performative with your activism. You never know who will support the cause when they see you believing in it. You never know. Trust me. You never know. And while we're here, before we move on to the next segment, I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful that y'all tuned in and that this holiday weekend is as good as any other weekend for you to check out my Deca Affirmations Workbook Volume 1, which is available for purchase for $15 at www.anotherbg.com. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Twitter at AnotherBGT, Instagram at AnotherBGI, and Facebook, yeah, that's the one, at AnotherBGF. You can also contact me on my website. You can contact me on my socials. Honestly, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts about this podcast, about my Instagram aesthetic. Honestly, I don't care what it is, but I would love to hear from you. So, check it out. What do you have to lose? So, another Black Girl podcast. I don't know why I'm speaking about this in the third person. I have some big news about season 3 that I will be sharing with you all, my wonderful audience, very soon. So stay tuned for the next episode. This is already the 19th episode. Wow. The 20th episode concludes the second season. I really can't believe it's already been 2 seasons. So there will be another Deca Affirmations workbook coming out, hopefully, if the holiday season doesn't get too hectic. But there will be some great news coming out and some new content, so keep an eye peeled or an ear open for that. But all of that aside, let's get into some affirmations. This week's affirmation is going to be, my light attracts others. Yeah, that's it. My light attracts others. But not only does it attract people, it attracts them to do what? Just like how we were talking about performative activism. What does your light attract others to do? I believe that we were put here for a purpose. If you do, that's cool. If you don't, that's also cool. But what do you think? What do you think your light does? Not only does it illuminate that which is around you, it bounces off the walls and through glass, it reflects and lights up entire spaces. So what does your light attract others to do? It might be, my light causes others to become inspired. My light heals the broken. Maybe my light heals myself, my inner light. The best version of me heals myself. What change does your light bring about? What does it do? What color is it? Is it thick? Like Meg the Stallion? Or is it wispy? Like one of those thin clouds in the sky on a summer's day. What does your light do? And how can you stretch that light? Maybe you need a few more watts. Maybe you need to light a whole hallway. Maybe you need to light a whole building, a football field. How can you increase the scope of your light? I don't know, but just some things to consider. I don't have the answers. I don't know the answers, and I'll be thinking about this long after I post this podcast. But you know, it can't hurt to think about it. So anyways, this is your host, Lauren, Lori, Laura, Renee, your local shady girl, somebody who spends too much time on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and drinking coffee when I'm not tired. But you know, We all got to start from somewhere. So thanks for tuning in, and catch me next time for our next conversation that will be concluding the 2nd season. I cannot believe it. But thanks for sticking along for the journey. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I love y'all. Have a great and safe week, and kick off your holiday season with the mask above your nose and a hand sanitizer in your pocket. Period. Another Black Girl Podcast.